Welcome to the Amato Report. As we all know, for whatever reason, for some reason, here in America and Western civilization, there's a rise of anti-Semitism in America and in the Western civilization. Hey, look no further than the state of Maine and their recent primary. Now, uh, one particular congressman, Republican Congressman Randy Fine, District 6 in Florida, which covers Daytona Beach, is someone who is of Jewish American background and has had multiple death threats because of his pro-Israeli outlook and his Jewish heritage. Now, as I say, he's had multiple death threats, and Congressman Fine, who joins us in just a moment, is running in a primary here in not here, but there in Florida. And one of his Republican opponents has said that Randy Fine is too fat to fit into the ovens, just to give you an idea of how extreme this idiot is. Joining me at this time from Florida is political consultant Dave Crystal and sitting Republican Congressman Randy Fine. Randy, by the way, is a Trump-endorsed congressman. Congressman Fine, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Dave Crystal, good to see you.
Good to have me back. Thank you.
Congressman Fine, why do you suppose there's this outrage of anti-Semitism in America today? It seems to have, I haven't followed it closely over the years. It seems to have come out of nowhere the last couple of years.
Well, thanks for having me. I think it's largely funded by foreign actors. I think that you've got Qatar, Iran, Turkey that fund it because they believe in the Islamification of America. And I think that is really where a lot of this is coming from. And I think there's also funding coming from China and Russia. Not that they care about anti-Semitism, they don't. It's that they're looking for vehicles to divide Americans against themselves. So as we've seen the rise of mainstream Islam in the United States, as well as all this foreign money, I think that's really driving it. But the parties are different. I mean, the Democratic Party has embraced it full stream. I mean, it's mainstream Democratic thought. Look, they just nominated someone for the U.S. Senate that has a Nazi tattoo on his chest and knew exactly what it was when he got it. I mean, the Democratic Party is a Nazi-friendly party now. The Republican Party, it's more on the fringes. And even many of the voices that have been speaking at the loudest, people like Tucker Carlson, they've been kicked out of the party by no more than our leader, Donald Trump. So it's more of a fringe movement on the right where it's mainstream on the left. It's still a problem, but these are crazy times we live in. But I don't think what we're seeing on the left and the right are the same.
I think that makes perfect sense. It's always been the fringe on the right, and the mainstream media has tried to brand it as, oh, that's typical Republican. But here we see mainstream on the left having that sentiment, as we just saw in Maine, right? The last couple of days here.
And not just Maine. I mean, Democrats just nominated an actual Al-Qaeda Muslim terrorist as a nominee to run for Congress in New Jersey. The guy worked for Al-Qaeda. The guy also worked with Hamas after October 7th. So, I mean, they have gone full stream embrace of mainstream Islam, of Nazism. That is today's Democratic Party. On the Republican side, it's better than it was when I got elected. When I first got elected to Congress a little over a year ago, I served alongside two anti-Semites out of 220, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. Well, we ran Marjorie Taylor Greene out of town. She quit. And Thomas Massie, we beat in a primary. So we are better today than we were a year ago. The Democrats are far, far worse.
And as I mentioned at the outset, you are endorsed by Donald Trump. What is his take on this situation as we just talked about?
Well, I'm actually excited. I'm the only person in America that Donald Trump has endorsed in 3 elections, in 2024, in 2025, and in 2026. In 2024, I was running for the state Senate. which I won. After I won the state Senate, President Trump asked me to run for and endorse me for Congress. My special election was April 1st of 2025. And now he's endorsed me for my reelection in 2026. So I'm the only person who can make that claim. I think the president's not willing to put up with it. That's why you saw him eject Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens from the Republican Party, calling them low IQ losers. He has said there is no place for this in the Republican Party. It comes from the top. And I think President Trump taking that position shows that the Republican Party is the only safe party for Jewish Americans or anyone who cares about Judeo-Christian values to be a part of.
You see, yeah, I haven't looked at I'm in California. I haven't looked at Florida numbers.
Sorry.
Is there
my condolences.
Is there any credible threat to you from anybody in this Republican primary?
No, I think I'll be fine. I mean, look, I won my election last year with 83% of the vote. I beat there are two people ran against me. They split 17% between the two of them. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party. We all just get to live in it. And the president is batting 1,000 with congressional primary endorsements. I believe I'll be fine. I may have some opponents. I may not. We'll know on Friday. But the best way for me to campaign is just to do my job. And I think my constituents are very, very happy with how I'm doing it.
Yeah, it appears so. Why don't you take a second and let our viewers know what you stand for as a Republican congressman?
Well, I'll tell you the things that are most important to me. The most important thing to me is the existential threat facing the United States, and that is our debt and our deficit. We cannot spend money at the rate that we are and expect to survive as a nation. We're borrowing trillions of dollars a year that we don't have. And that will come to an end in a horrific way if we don't do something about it. That's number one. I didn't come to Washington to spend money. I came to Washington to cut spending. And so that's number one. And I'm frustrated, frankly, that neither party really seems focused on solving that problem. My number two issue for me is the Islamification of America. As we have seen mainstream Islam take hold, we have seen our values change. You know, it used to be immigration in this country was about people who loved America, shared our values, wanted to integrate, wanted to assimilate, and wanted to add value. Now we have people coming here who hate our country, want to change our values, and all they can do is think about how much they can rip it off. So the Islamification of America concerns me very greatly because mainstream Islam, see, in Judaism and Christianity, you practicing your own religion doesn't require anyone else to do anything. I may not eat pork, but I don't expect the supermarket to not sell it. Yeah. But mainstream Islam requires you to practice their religion in order for them to practice their religion. It requires everyone who is not a mainstream Muslim to submit to them in order for them to practice their religion. And that's a real problem. And then the third issue that I'm very passionate about is immigration. I've talked about legal immigration, letting people in who hate America, but illegal immigration is a huge issue. And we talk about making America more affordable again. The number one thing we can do to make America more affordable is to deport every single illegal immigrant. 30 million people living in American housing pushes up housing prices. 30 million people going to the emergency room without insurance drives up healthcare costs. 30 million people sending their kids to our public schools where we spend $10,000 to $20,000 to educate them drives up our education costs. And 30 million people being in our country driving on our roads who shouldn't be drives up our auto insurance costs. If we want to make America affordable again, we need to send every single illegal immigrant home. Those are the top three things that I'm the most worried about.
I understand that you've had multiple personal death threats.
Yeah, I get about one a day, but there are three people who've actually been arrested, prosecuted, and imprisoned over making those death threats. Now, two of the three predated my being in Congress. I've been an elected official for going on 10 years. In November, it'll be 10 years since I was elected to the Florida House. And two of those three were when I was a Florida state representative. So I'm used to this. I will say, the issues are greater now that I'm in Congress. But, it turns out the left, the peaceful left is the mostly peaceful left. And, you've got a lot of crazy people out there.
As you mentioned, the anti-Semitism influence is coming from abroad. What can everyday Americans do to to fight? Fight, that's not quite the right word, but I'll use it to bring common sense back.
Well, they can support the right people for office, whether it's Republicans who are generally not, Jew hating, and there's a few Democrats. But what people need to understand is Jew hatred is a leading indicator of societal collapse. It starts with the Jews. It doesn't end with the Jews. And every society that's embraced anti-Semitism has ultimately collapsed. It is a brain rot because it is irrational. It doesn't make sense. It's a philosophy of stupid people who just are unhappy with their own lives. And so the number one thing that people can do is to stand up and go, this is nuts, and we stand with our Jewish and Christian brothers in this country and making sure America is safe for everyone.
You had that's good information. Yeah, you had mentioned a moment ago that uh, basically you said Main Street Muslims are extreme. Uh,
Mainstream.
Main here in Southern California, I happen to know, just randomly, several just normal. They mind their own business. We play sports together and high five walking down the street. Do you not see that in Florida?
Well, those are the radical Muslims. See, I reject the language that we have been told. We have been told the problem is radical Islam, that mainstream Islam is fine. But here's the issue with that. When your three most well-known Muslim politicians are Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Zohran Mamdani, all of whom support Muslim terror, when the NAACP, the civil rights group for Muslims, is a group called CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, which was founded by terrorists. When your most well-known politicians support terrorism and your civil rights group supports terrorism, you can't say that's radical. You have to say that is the mainstream. The radicals are the ones who don't want to kill us. The radicals are the ones who do want to live in peace with us. And those people do exist. So not all Muslims are terrorists. There are plenty of good American Muslims.
Yeah.
But it's also true to say that it's not accurate to say that no Muslims are terrorists.
Right.
And the left tries to get us to use this radical Muslim, Islamist, Islamic terrorist. They try to do that to get us to minimize the problem, to make it sound like it's this teeny tiny minority. Here's a statistic that'll blow your mind. After the conflict with Iran started, there were 4 terrorist attacks in the United States in 4 different states: Michigan, New York, Texas, and Virginia. And they were all done by American Muslims. And there are 3,000 mosques in this country. And my colleague Andy Ogles said within a couple of weeks of those attacks, do you know how many of those 3,000 mosques had condemned those 4 Muslim terrorist attacks? The answer is none, not one, 0. So it doesn't mean that all Muslims are bad. I don't speak in absolutes. It's why I go out of my way to call it mainstream Muslims.
Got it.
I don't say Muslims because there are plenty of good ones. But I'm also not willing to say it's this teeny weeny tiny group on the extreme, because that is not correct.
What's your crystal ball say? What's the outlook on this Iranian conflict?
Well, I don't know. I don't have access to, I don't have the same information the president has. I'm not involved in those discussions. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and I trust President Trump. But I believe this. I think dealing with Muslim religious leaders, which is who runs Iran, who are insane and celebrate death and terrorism, is a very difficult thing to do. And so, my belief is they understand is force, and we ought to give it to them. But, I'm trusting the president to get this resolved. He is committed to make sure that they don't have a nuclear weapon.
Wow. Congressman Fine, let me ask you, as we wind up things here, we'll bring Dave Crystal in a moment. What's your outlook on the midterm elections?
I'm optimistic for a few reasons. Our economy is doing great. We keep blowing away the job projections every month. Americans are proud to be American again. Just look how President Trump has cleaned up Washington, D.C. And the one headwind facing us is the conflict in Iran, not because of the conflict itself, but because people don't like paying an extra $1.50 a gallon of gas. I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like for you in California. Are you up to $40 a gallon yet? I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like out there. But assuming we bring that in for a landing, assuming that is over, in the next soon, and I believe it will be, gas prices will come back down, and then that one big headwind will be eliminated. And then the last thing is, Democrats are nominating lunatics for these elections. Right. Are the good people of Maine really going to elect someone who has a Nazi tattoo on their chest, who beats up women, who engage in racist comments, who said he would want to have sex with men if they broke into his house? The guy's a walking nutcase. Yeah. Are regular people going to vote for that? Are regular people in New Jersey going to vote for a guy who worked for Al-Qaeda? I mean, they're nominating lunatics, and I have to hope that the American people are going to say, I didn't sign up for that. Even if you're a Democrat, to say, I didn't sign up for that. Because if they do sign up for that, if we elect these lunatics, we should be very, very scared about what the future of our country looks like.
I think you make a great point. I got to ask you this. Prior to being in Congress, you were an executive in the gambling industry. Did you know President Trump from that background?
I did. No one's ever asked me that. Yes, President Trump actually tried to hire me at one point to work with his casinos when he owned them. And I actually did work with the Trump casinos when he was only tangentially involved. So, yes, no one's ever asked me that. Well, so good job asking it.
Well, when you say you get endorsed 3 times before you even ran for Congress, and your background was gambling industry, don't make a racist belief here just because I'm Italian and I put those two together.
Not a problem.
I'm joking. Political consultant Dave Crystal, I appreciate your patience there. Any comments you'd like to add?
Well, the congressman made a lot of great points. Obviously, as a Jewish Republican in Florida, I support his candidacy wholeheartedly. It's very important that your audience realize that we should not dare draw moral parity between the rise of anti-Semitism in the Republican Party and that in the Democrat Party. As the congressman wisely alluded to, it is marginal and fringe and tangential in the Republican Party. It is institutional in the Democrat Party, because the Democrat Party over the last, let's say, 30 years has devolved into the party of envy. And people who envy those who are disproportionately successful and disproportionately contribute to America's greatness, which for whatever reasons happens to be my race of people, the Jews. And that's the same reason we've been hated for thousands of years, whether it's prior to 1391 and 1492 in Spain, or whether it's prior to the Holocaust. And we as humans have to learn from those who are successful and aspire to be successful and work with people who are successful, not say he has something I don't, therefore I choose to hate him. Therefore, he must be cheating and stealing. Therefore, I must take from him. And this is the message that the Republican Party must send above and beyond. We have to do a better job on the federal level, incentivizing states to mandate in their public school system, not just Holocaust education, but what I call the history of the suffering of the Jews prior to the Holocaust in high school. Obviously, we can't force that, but we can provide them financial incentives to do so. I heard a great line from Ron Dermer. I don't know if it could be originally attributed to him, but I heard him say it. He said, the problem with the Holocaust is that the Holocaust is like the sun that blots out the stars, because the Holocaust was so severe and painful to the Jews, and that's such a tremendous focus of education, at least recent education, in terms of hatred of the Jews. It causes the average Gentile to lose sight of the Spanish Inquisition, the pogroms, the Crusades, what the Romans did to us in the first Holocaust in our homeland. And if everyday non-Jewish children don't learn about this, how do you expect them to have historical sympathy for the Jews? If they have that sympathy, and then you combine with that Holocaust studies, then suddenly the rate of anti-Semitism will go down.
Well, good comment. And Congressman Fine, let me just also add that I don't bet on sports anymore, but I was a big-time sports gambler in college, and I put those two together. Your background in trouble.
Well, if you want to make a bet, I think they're selling dollars for like 90 cents on the odds of me winning my election. So it's a pretty safe bet that's out there right now.
It sure is. Congressman Randy Fine, Florida's 6th District, political consultant Dave Crystal, I thank you for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Back with more after this.